What's going on, everybody? Thank you so much for joining. Hope you are having a great one as always. And today we are cracking into Omnipotent Hero, aka Omni-Man, or Nolan Grayson, if you want to be weird about it, from the wonderful Invincible series. I'm really psyched about this figure. I actually got it quite a while ago. I think he came in, I don't know, maybe a week or two before Christmas. I ordered him from the 1/6 Outfitters. They are unfortunately sold out now, but if you are interested, I'm going to rip that bag anyways, and some of the other SooSoo figures, they are a pretty good spot to order them from. I think he ended up being about $190, something like that. Of course, my typical rival Tape has done terrible things. I do like that SooSoo, they got their own little plastic bags now, so that's kind of cool. Good for them. It's kind of fun. Anyways, let's go ahead and get this fella on out of here. Now, they do have an Invincible figure himself coming up, so if you wanted to get Invincible, you could. I absolutely love Omni-Man, so for me, this was a very easy decision to make. A couple of interesting things to talk about with this guy, which we'll go ahead and do as we get into him. The main one being the cape. Now, if you aren't in the collectible world, there we go. SooSoo released a little bit of an update a while ago. I believe they technically made two versions of the figure. I think they sort of did like a second release with some updates on it where they repackaged the cape. Pretty dang cool figure there. We didn't really look at the box too much. Yeah, we can do that later. Cover of it's cool, the back of it's kind of basic. But in any event, from my understanding, there's two different versions of him. One where the cape is packaged separate, which looks like that's kind of the style I've got, and then one where it is attached to him. The cape is causing a lot of issues. That's a hefty dude. So what's ending up happening, the cape, because of the dye in it, ends up staining the back of his costume. So you got to be really careful with it. You really want to wash it, which I am looking forward to doing. It'll be an exciting thing, but you basically want to soak it until you get a whole bunch of that extra dye out. I'll kind of explain my process once we get towards the end of that, but this head sculpt is pretty dang cool. I'll have to yank it off and get that plastic on off of that. Boop. Goodbye. Now, this is more of like a realistic style than the animated version, which I don't mind, and it's being a little difficult to put that back on, so we're going to do one of these. There we go. Now, the one complaint that I have heard about the figure, other than the actual cape issue, is that they use kind of the... I'm not sure if it's an actual World Box body or one very similar to it, but this thing is hefty. It is a really cool sculpt. There you can see it in all its glory. Honestly, they did do a really good job with that. The angry head sculpt that he gets, I'm actually more impressed with. That's probably going to be the one I use most of the time. If you aren't familiar with the show, I highly suggest watching it or read the comic. Either way, he's basically a parody of Superman, I guess is really the easiest way to look at it. But what I would recommend, the end of episode 1 is basically like kind of the reveal of why the show's awesome. That's no fun. We'll have to pop one of them hands back on there. Not the end of the world by any means. Didn't break, just kind of popped off. But we'll play with that in a bit. And yeah, so his son's got superpowers. It's kind of a family drama-ish, very violent, really cool superhero story. I absolutely love it. Love this character. Love most of the characters in it. It's a good one. So you do get a double joint in the knee, which is nice. This suit's a really interesting material too. I don't know how it's going to hold up over the years. It does kind of crinkle a bit, especially after you play with them, but you can kind of stretch it out, make sure there's no real giant creases or anything like that, and it really doesn't restrict movement too much. The only downside, okay, not much in the forward kicking action, but that's okay. Only real downside to me is just the heft to it. This is a very, very, very hefty figure, but I digress. And we didn't look at the footwear. I suppose we probably should. It's basically just a standard boot, but you do get a little bit of wiggle there. And they've got separation in that spot so you can move the ankle around a little bit, which is a nice touch, especially if you're going to have them flying. So that's kind of fun. Like that they did that. Nothing too special, but certainly pretty neat. This base is really cool looking. We'll pull that out in a moment. I'm very happy that you get a pointing figure so you can do that's the fun part. You don't. Moment, which, watch the show. We'll just leave it at that. Come on. They do load you up with hands, which is nice. We'll just do a kind of close-up look at a couple of them. They are very well painted, which is nice. And honestly, they're really good durable plastic too. They did a good job with those. SooSoo did not go light in that regard. I almost wish they would have had like a roughed up fist from punching his kid. I know that's a weird statement, but eventually if you ever do watch or read the comic, you'll understand. He does also play catch with his son, so we got the baseball mitt. I'm looking forward to posing him with Captain Cisco, because he also comes with the baseball, which will be a really weird and unusual team up, but I like doing those for displays, so that'll be fun. Of course, get this beautiful angry head. Now this one to me is the cream of the crop right there. That's the one to use. It just looks so dang cool. Got the hair blowing and all of that good stuff. Absolutely awesome. I'm probably going to end up using that just because I think it looks way cooler than the normal one, but both of them are pretty dang good. And then you do also get this, which is fun. It's I think it's a severed flaxen head, if I'm not mistaken. Oh yeah, that thing is awesome. So he can kind of hold that and play around with it. Beautiful gore on it, I must say. I'm a big fan of the blood and guts, hence why I like this show, and they did some cool work with that. And I know he's supposed to be able to hold it, so I don't know if you just... Let's find out. It's possible it's magnet. Oh no, so he's just got... You kind of snap it into place from what I can tell. Yeah, there you go. Just get those fingers into the grooves and then that'll clip right in. So that's really cool. Have him holding the severed head. I love that. Definitely neat. And really he is strong enough to just squeeze one of their heads and leave imprints in it, so it's not weird that they're there by any means. Of course you do get the dynamic stand, and there we have the cape, which we'll pull out in just a moment. Just to give a quick look at the base. You get the Omni-Man logo. Nothing too fancy on it. That's weird. There's a little scuff. Yeah, looks like that's just a really gross little scuff there. But the glorious thing about that, that's where the stand is, so it'll be in the back. Oh no, I've got one up there too. Yeah, the whole thing is not the end of the world. I can honestly paint over that, but that's weird. I wonder what actually would have caused that. Probably, guessing the plastic in the box, maybe? Definitely a bit odd. It's got some red speckles on it, which, you know, obviously would kind of come from the splattering they did there, but little bits of black are weird. I think it's just from the plastic in the box, to be honest. So that's kind of a bummer, something to be mindful of. I did have this sitting in the box for a while. I think, like I said, probably about a month. So, might have been what did it. So this is the cape. Now what I'm going to end up doing is boiling water, putting it in a nice little soup bowl, plopping this guy in, and basically just treating it like a tea bag, where I'm just going to kind of wring it out constantly and press it down with a spoon. Let it soak a bunch, pull it out, wrap it up in some paper towels, probably wring it out a whole bunch, do that a bunch more. I don't know how many times I'm going to end up actually washing this. Probably quite a few. Because the goal is that you're going to want to get the extra dye that's in here out of it. A lot of people do that with most of their capes for figures, especially like Hot Toys and stuff like that, because a lot of them can dye. The plastics, especially like the flesh colored skin tones and all that stuff. So it's not an uncommon thing to do, not really a bad habit to be in for most of your stuff, but with this one you definitely want to, just to avoid the staining on the cape or on the body. I'm going to leave it in the bag for now because that's going to be a tomorrow project. But for the most part, I do really like the figure. I can definitely understand why people are not happy just with the body they chose, because it is a really chunky dude. And honestly, just kind of playing around with him a little bit, I do kind of worry about how the suit's going to hold up in some of these areas, especially any of the spots that are getting a lot of mobility. I just kind of worry that they'll crease up and kind of show obvious creasing over time. But I can play around with that a bit. Also, I am going to put a hand back on him just to recomplete the figure. I feel weird without him having one. Alright, there we go. Well, a little bit better. Now, as far as actually attaching the cape, you do undo this, and then there's two little hooks right in there, and those connect to the hooks that are in that part. So they'll kind of come in, hook underneath, pull out, and then drape over the back. You could technically get a replacement cape if you wanted. That's certainly an option. You might run into the same dye problems. Another thing I'm considering doing with mine, if I can't get the dye out, I might look into just putting like some sort of, get like a double-sided tape or something like that. Probably not tape, wouldn't necessarily be the best, but basically just get something to kind of cushion right here. That way the cape kind of doesn't come in direct contact with it. Also, I might just leave the cape off for most of the posing, and then if I ever want to get some photos with him in the cape on, easy solution. Take it open, add the cape, do your photos, take it off, back to the stand he goes. But haven't really decided yet. Still plenty of time to do that. I feel like that looks really weird right there. There's no rip. Just kind of keeps catching my eye the way it's kind of crinkled. So if you were wondering, there's no hole or anything. But did definitely look a little awkward. Do like that they give you the dynamic stand. That's a nice little perk. Definitely a bonus there. I am getting Invincible if you were interested. Like I know said, I know they still have them at 1/6 Outfitters. They've also got like the Logan and a couple of the other ones. They might still have Rogue left, but a lot of other places have been selling out of the pre-orders. So definitely a good place to check if you're interested in them. Usually they're in Giant Toy are my two main go-tos, so certainly worthwhile. That'll do it for this one. Thank you all so much as always, and until next time, have yourselves a great one.